But yeah, hey, welcome to TNT, and I am T.
And I am too, ironically. We are
My pronouns are he and him.
Mine are she and her. I need new pronouns. That's boring. I need something else.
Okay, you could go like Ella,
I could
right?
I could give it some flavor.
Right, something. I don't know how you just, I mean, you can. People do it every day. Change
But
them up, switch them up.
their pronouns weekly because that they so feel compelled. So if they can do it, so
Okay.
you're
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with he, him. They work for me.
yeah, no. I'm a she her.
And you
Boy,
know, for me, and I know this has nothing to do with like pronouns in general, but let me just say this as a black man. Um I get super offended when somebody is like, "Oh, they them" to me.
what?
So,
I know quite a few people like that, and I always be like, "Why would you get mad?" Because at least they're trying to.
so
They're
me,
trying to be
I'm gonna
more.
tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why for me it's a problem.
Tell me.
Cause so for me it's like, and like I said, it doesn't even have anything to do with gender.
Yeah.
So for me, it's too close to them people. So it sounds real racial for me when somebody calls me they. I don't even think about gender. Like that's not even something that pops into my like because I don't think anybody would intentionally they me unless it's like intentional.
Got
But yeah.
got
So
you.
when
I have
somebody is like,
that. I cannot lie.
I'm gonna tell that's the first thing I don't even think about like gender. I think about like, are you racially like theying me?
What kind of day is
I gotta side eye you and correct you, and then see if you do it again.
that? No, I know it's on fault. Not on purpose.
Right. But
It's interesting. I feel like a lot of things, like I feel like the way the world is right now, a lot of things are forcing people to think about things differently, like on our side. Because I know that I've had a bunch of, and I'm like rolling my eyes because I feel like it's like dumb conversations. And I hate to be like that, but I do feel like it's dumb conversations. Like I'll have somebody who um gets offended about they because a person isn't sure of their gender identity. And so opposed to being offensive, like they're just picking gender neutral and then you can tell them what it is. And I know people that get super angry about that. And I'm like, why are why? Like I get it. That's not your gender identity. If somebody does it over again, then it's purposeful and that's a different conversation. But at least the person is trying. Because whether I think somebody's gender presentation is one thing or another, I still could just pick they because I don't know what the answer is. Or they because I don't know if they identify with a pronoun that sounds like they present. And so I feel like the way the world is right now, those kind of things, like based on the pervasive hate and craziness that's happening, I kind of feel like people are having to rethink some of those like nuanced things. Like, damn, at least at least they are woke enough to be
to
paying attention.
add, I get that. I definitely get that. Like for me though, like if I don't know, like it's not like like if it's like visibly a question to me, I should say. I'm usually like, "Hey, my name is T. My pronouns are," and
Get
I
yourself.
don't do that with
I
everybody.
always
So like,
the best way.
yeah, that's like the best way for me. If like, besides just being, because sometimes people are like, and I get there, it's like people are like, oh, just ask. But there are people also who get offended when you ask.
Nope.
And I'm just gonna be honest. We're not even gonna sugarcoat nothing. There are some people who get offended when you ask, like you should already know. So I'm just like,
That's
I say, I say my pronouns, and I give them and leave it open for like a space for them to say theirs. And then like if they don't say it, then I'm kind of like, all right, I'm just gonna ask. Like, so what pronouns do you use?
yeah.
You know, but like, but yeah, but right now for me, pronouns are like the last thing I'm thinking about. Like, I'll be honest, like if you fuck up my pronouns, I'm not gonna flip out. I might look at you crazy because clearly you must have a sight problem. But I just feel like it's so many other things in the world for me to be worried about than like if somebody get my pronouns right. Like more so like, hey, is my paycheck right? Things like that is like, more I guess right now for me, the way the political climate is, I'm like pronouns is down here and like medical care and everything else is at the top of the list. And like I could really, you know,
I,
maybe I worry about pronouns after these next 4 years, stuff like that.
I,
But that's just
I gotta say though, I was on a panel 2 weeks ago, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I was on a panel, and it was for LGBTQ journalists. So I had been invited to this panel, and I don't know that I've ever been on a panel for that reason. So it was interesting, and it was a gentleman who was a very well known here locally. Ran is like the editor or assistant editor or something for an LGBTQ magazine publication. And then the person sitting next to him was an older gentleman who had like a long storied journalistic career. Like he'd been around for a long time. I think he actually gave the first guy like his start and whatever. Then there was a young trans woman sitting next to me. And she just started a Zine kind of thing that mostly dealt with not like current news, but like historical thing. Like she was talking about a story they did about like all the historic gay bars in their area, like that had come and gone and whatever. So hers was more like historical context. And then it was me. And so we went through this whole panel. The girl next to me had a overtly feminine name, like Becky, Sue, Sarah, Melissa, Joanne type of very clearly feminine. So there was no ambiguity in the name that she had. Not that appearance matters, but she had on some like short shorts. She had long hair. She had a full face of makeup and like a
there.
clear feminine shirt, like clearly feminine shirt. And the second gentleman was talking and used the male pronouns. And now this is like 45 minutes into the panel. Like this isn't like we just sat down and hadn't, heard each of us speak. And, like I was flabbergasted. I agree. Right now, in the grand scheme of all the things that are happening in the world, pronouns are very unimportant. But especially in an LGBTQ setting, because this was like an LGBTQ festival, talking to LGBTQ journalists, the fact that that man some way managed to mess up this girl's pronouns, like I could not understand. I could not understand how that was a thing. Like, how did we get here? Like I couldn't. So I waited to see if the host was going to say something. Then there was a young trans woman. I'm like, that sounds familiar. Then I waited for a second to see if the host was going to say anything, and he didn't. Hey, babe. And so I immediately was like, yeah, because the man was actually complimenting her when he was talking and using the wrong pronouns about like what a good job she was doing and whatever. And I was like, yeah, she's awesome. because I felt so bad. Like I couldn't imagine how it must have felt being her in that moment. Cause like we had an auditorium full of people. We're on stage. Like and you could when he said it the second time, you could hear the audience like audibly gasp. And somebody say, "Did he say he?" And so as soon as she finished talking, because no, as soon as he finished talking, I was like, yeah, she's awesome. Because like I just wanted her to feel like she wasn't alone sitting there in that moment because like I just couldn't imagine. So yes, in the grand scheme of fuckery that's happening in this country right now, it's not a big deal, but it just still never ceases to amaze me that people can somehow mess that up in situations where it is remarkably clear. Hey everybody, we got a bunch of people joining us. Welcome.
So my camera, I don't know if y'all can hear me because my camera is doing something crazy right now.
I can hear you.
Oh, can you see me? Because I cannot see y'all.
Hear you.
Oh, okay. You could see me?
I can see you and hear you. You can't see
I can't
and hear
see.
you.
I can't see. I mean, I can't see, or I could see me, but it's wild right now. And I'm like, should I leave and come back? But then I'm like, it might not even work if I leave and come back.
That's a fact. I would say as long they're sending hearts, so I think that means they can see and hear you too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I can't even tell who on here, nothing. Um,
All right, I'll make sure I'll read the comments so you can hear what people are saying.
yeah, I'm just gonna be on a little bit of a delay, I think, because I don't know what's up with my yeah, I told you today. Listen, I've been having all types of difficulties like all month, and I feel like it's Black History Month. Like, what is going
The
on?
audacity.
The audacity. Like, man, it's been a crazy month already.
So Javon,
But yeah,
Javon
you
is
said
on. He's asking what our topic is today. So welcome, Javon.
yeah, welcome everybody that I can't see. I'm sure I love you all.
Got a big old crowd
What's
right now.
crazy is I can't see myself, I can't see you, but I can see the comments coming through.
Oh, okay. Well, at least
I did invite you. That's what I said. I just invited everybody and shared it on my page. So I can't see who came though. Because
here. They
I,
came. That's what matters. They here.
I mean, yeah, here. What we talking about? We was just talking about politics and catching up. It's been a while since we've had a live, just due to everything in life and
Life is
crazy. So we just wanted to, come on, say hi to everybody, talk a little bit about like politics. Tam was just talking about LGBTQ panel that they did where somebody got misgendered on the panel at an LGBTQ panel,
by
which
LGBTQ person at that.
yes, yes. So listen, my mama used to say it be your own kind,
Say that.
but yeah. So yeah, we just catching up. We just catching up. Oh, I could see people. I could see people as they come in the room, though. I see Kim came in here, Javon. I see Yanni, Daniel. Who else do I see?
Felicia.
Oh, Felicia. Yeah. Let me say to everybody on here. Listen, Felicia is actually my older sister, right?
Hey, Felicia.
And like
Yes, God.
watches my dog every time I go out of town, right? So I wish I'm gonna have to we need to start doing like a pet appreciation in Blackout. I think that would be so cute. But
Yeah.
listen,
We can start.
watch it. Yeah, I mean people love to send in pictures of their pets and the gays got a lot of pets. So I feel like but yeah. So watches my dog every time I go out of town. And like it was his birthday when I went out of town last time. And she
Ooh,
baked him
bad.
homemade cookies, got him like a party hat. They had a whole time while I was gone.
So cute.
Oh, it's Simba's birthday today. Okay, Simba's my dog's best friend. So
Oh,
happy birthday, Simba. And Simba is like 100 pounds. I love Simba, but Simba could not live in my house.
rude.
Simba
All
is
right. So
huge.
we were gonna kind of talk about obviously, there's a lot of things going on in the world right now. Obviously, especially hitting our community. I know Blackout has really been trying to do our best to break down a lot of the executive orders that have been coming out. T and I especially have been busting out these videos trying to break down what things mean, what they don't mean. So I don't want to go over too much of that stuff because you may be like already saturated and already watch those videos and already understand. But since T and I have both been paying such close attention and have been doing all these breakdowns on our social medias and our YouTubes, if you have any questions about what are happening in politics, please feel free to drop those in the chat and we will run through some of that in the midst of the other conversations we're having tonight. Because I really, really think it's incredibly important for all of us to stay informed. But beyond that, it's the most important thing for us to understand what's happening. So if you have a question about anything you've seen, heard, talk about in politics, please feel free to drop it and um we will talk about it. Because again, we trying to make those videos like 2 minutes. Like everybody who makes them for me gets so mad because I'd be like, can you take like 30 more seconds off of it? Because so many social media formats only let you share such short videos. We don't want people to miss what's important because the stuff is too long. And you know, people don't have attention spans, so we also try to keep it short. So if there's anything you've seen or heard that's going on that you want us to touch on, I promise you either T or I, both of us know about it because we've had to write about it and research it and search stuff for it. So feel free to ask and we can break down any of the things. Oh, thank you. Daniel said they have been keeping track of all the things through the stuff that we've been putting up. So that's great. That's what we're doing it for. So I'm so glad to hear it. Javon said, I'm over it all. It's definitely a diversion for what they're really doing. Rich people getting richer. Agreed. I think that there are a lot of I think there always has been and there always will be a lot going on in the government behind the scenes that we have no idea what it's about. I think there's a lot of cloak and daggers and smoke and mirrors that happen. But I also think that those rich people getting richer are willing to do that on the back of all of us. And so it's incredibly important for us to be paying attention to the things that are happening because just because they're trying doesn't mean they're constitutional, legal, and they can. So even though that's not the big plan, I'm sure the big plan, the whole oligarchy and keeping the rich people richer and finding ways to get government contracts that benefit them, we're all still suffering because of it. So if there's ways for us to learn more and fight back and pay attention, we definitely got to do that. Oh, the married women losing the right to vote. Have you seen that, T? That news
Have I
that? Hmm?
married women losing their right to vote?
So this is the interesting one, and I actually haven't made a video about it yet, but I was actually doing some research last night. I don't have the exact statute in front of me to be able to name it, but we'll do a video this week sometime so you know exactly what it is so people can look it up. But yes, there is something proposed that says that if your birth name, your birth last name doesn't match what's on your ID, that you will no longer be able to vote. So the immediate thing that people may think about is the fact that that means that trans people will struggle to vote. What people may not also realize is that means married women who have changed, or married men for that matter, who have changed their last names will also have a really hard time being able to vote. So it's clearly a voter suppression technique. Hey Shay. Clearly a voter suppression technique. But I was watching a town hall. What's interesting is right now these Republicans are doing their rounds and doing town halls because the next election, like the next election cycle is in 40 days. So they are out in the community, they're talking to people, they're trying to hustle up votes and whatever. And this one one Republican politician that I saw is going hammer, like they were going hammer bammer about that specifically. Ooh, T, what you done did because I lost you. Is going hammer bammer about and attacking. Oh, you're back. Yay. Can you see me? Can you hear? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, let me just keep talking. So there were people in the audience that were big mad. There was a woman in the audience that was like, I want to know why you're afraid to let me vote, because this statute is to suppress, is going to suppress married women from voting. And why would you not want me to be able to vote? And the fact of the matter is she was absolutely right. And he had zero answers. And that's why it's so incredibly important for us to pay attention and ask questions. Like the executive orders themselves, executive orders are not laws. And like, that's a twofold thing to say, because one, they absolutely aren't. Just because executive order comes out doesn't mean, Shay, you seen that clip? Just because an executive order comes out does not mean that it's legal or constitutional, which means you can go to the courts and fight it. And it means that that Congress can fight it. Sorry, T's trying to jump back in. Let me add him in as I'm talking. There we go. So that means Congress can shoot it down. That means that it can be fought in court, and tons of these executive orders right now are being fought in court. And T, I just sent you an invitation to come back. But the other side of that is, just because it went out, even if it's not legal, a law, doesn't mean that it's not going to affect people. There are all kinds of medical systems around the country that are stopping offering trans-affirming care just because the executive order came out and they're afraid to lose funding. So it doesn't, some states won't marry you. As a trans man, oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking in the comments. As a trans man of experience, marriage has been on my mind. Is there laws against queer marriage as it stands right now in New York? No. There, to my, T, it said the connection failed. You're gonna have to try again. To my knowledge, there have yet to be any states that have outlawed same-sex marriage. It was not, Iowa sent out a directive asking for the Supreme Court to reconsider same-sex marriage. New York State, the right is still secured. I have yet to hear of a state that has said, no, you can no longer marry same-sex marriage. However, yes, New York State is protected. There we go. And he's back. Sorry, I was so distracted trying to answer that. Probably sounded like a crazy answer, but I was just trying to make sure T got back on before I was too deep into talking. So yes, in New York State, marriage equality is protected. In many of the states, it is protected. I have heard states petitioning for the Supreme Court to re-examine marriage equality, to give them the power to then outlaw it in their individual states. But as of right now, it has not been overturned in any of the states. What I will say is, it's really easy to make it seem like, oh, right now the GOP and MAGA is going after trans folks, but the rest of the LGBT acronym is safe, and that's not real. I guarantee you that when they have done everything that is in their power to do with trans folks, they will come after the rest of the queer community. So I'm sure marriage equality would become a conversation. I'm sure same-sex adoption will become a conversation. Trump recently put out something
Healthcare in general for LGBTQ people. I said healthcare in general for LGBTQ people is gonna be up. Look at what they're trying to do with HIV care already.
Yep.
And we already know how many people that is going to affect. Like, it's just negligent.
That's why, like, being of the 92%, one of the 92% that, I fully understood the frustration after the election. I would even say frustration slash depression after the election, because it was so incredibly disheartening for me to know that we worked so hard and had a candidate that was so qualified and she still couldn't. It's an experience that as a Black woman you experience in your own life so often that watching it play out on the national stage in that way was exceptionally heartbreaking and disheartening. And it took me a minute to like bounce back. Like I had to do some internal work to be able to, get back to the place that I was ready to fight again. And I absolutely understood and supported the folks that said, no, 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 don't come looking for us to save you. We showed up and you didn't. And I absolutely respect it and I get it. But I also understand how this works and absolutely to vote. That's not true. Lots of people showed up to vote. 92% of Black women and I think 84% of Black men showed up to vote. It was the other people that either chose not to or third party or whatever. So I absolutely get it. But I also am not stupid enough to think that he was just going to go after immigrants. And the thing about it is, a lot of immigrants are Black and brown. And that means something to me. I wasn't silly enough to think he was only going to go after trans folks. But guess what? A lot of trans folks are Black and brown. And so that's my fight too. A lot of people, that's not true. It wasn't 50% of the country didn't vote. That's not accurate. I can look up the stat. I don't know exactly, but that's not accurate. Okay, you talk while I look it up and I'll get the numbers, T. But I knew that they were coming for all of us. So we couldn't sit out, because as much as other people deserve to F around and find out, it wasn't going to stop with them. And no matter what happens, it's always our communities that suffer the most. So there was no time to sit and be sad. Like we couldn't do it. We absolutely couldn't do it because they're going to come for all of us. It's inevitable.
It was 63.9%.
What is it?
63.9.
Yeah.
The voter turnout was 63.9%.
Which is about typical. So it was significantly more than half, and it was a lot of people. What I do think is important to mention is half of the voter pool didn't, more than half of the voter pool didn't vote for Trump. Like the numbers, it's really easy to feel like in these times where people are being hunted and persecuted, that there are more of them than there are us, and that's not necessarily true. There were the numbers between Kamala and Trump were not far apart, and a significant amount of people either sat out or they were third-party voters, which took away from her numbers specifically. So they'd have you think it was like the whole country. They just overwhelmingly landslide selected somebody else. Not really true. Which is why if we have the ability to stand up and fight, things can change. Which actually brings to some of what we wanted to talk about tonight. And again, if there's any political stuff going on that you have heard about, seen, are worried about, want to understand more about, the way it needs to be crying, anything in the politics that you've seen, you've heard about, you're nervous about, you aren't sure is true or false. T and I do a whole lot of these breakdowns and videos talking about those things, so we probably have an answer for you, and if not, we can find it real quick. So as we have this conversation tonight, if there's anything you want to know, drop it in the chat and we will dig in. But in the meantime, one of the things we really want to talk about is activism, like different kinds of activism, because I know that in this moment it can feel so overwhelming and like there's just nothing you can be doing, or the kind of activism you've seen, you don't see yourself in. So it feels like there's nothing you can be doing. And so we're going to talk about some ways that you can get involved and, speak up and right back. Because it looks different for different people, and it's more important for you to find the thing that you can do than sit around and feel like you can't do anything.
So yeah, so one of the things I do is I run a advocacy group for youth. And ever since the election, that is what they've wanted to talk about this year, is ways that they can help with advocacy work, get into advocacy work, things that they can be doing to advocate for themselves. And my kids, I think the youngest person in that group is probably 13. Yeah, I think the youngest person is 13. And I like to teach them that, advocacy work is based on your abilities and your safety. Um, so that's like the first thing that I try to teach them. I'm like, what is your capability of what you can do? And also, what are you good at? You know, I have some kids that are great artists. So one week we did political cartoons. And they thought about an issue that was, you know, close to their hearts. And they each drew a political cartoon about it, which was really nice because I got to see what it was that, they were passionate about. And, a lot of it have to do with like trans rights, but one kid specifically, their biggest issue was someone saying that there was only two genders.
Mm-hmm.
So their political cartoon surrounded making sure that everybody knew that there was more than two genders. But yeah, I try to teach people that advocacy work is not always picketing. It's not always being the one to speak on panels or in front of a crowd, or it really is based on like your talents and what you have the capability to do safely.
Indeed.
So yeah, I don't know. I see some of the food policy and sustainability work. That is great. That's actually a really dope thing, especially coming from Diamond, who is a black farmer. We love
Yeah.
those. Because we all know that like there's so much stuff that the government puts inside food. There's so many places where there are food deserts. Um, in my Not in my neighborhood, but close by my neighborhood, we have a community refrigerator. And there's an organization here that puts community refrigerators in different places in the city, whereas they fill them up, or different people can come in, drop off food that's good that people can take when they're out of food or when they don't have enough money for food. So I think that's a great thing. I see a lot of small gardens and people teaching people or young people how to garden, which I think is pretty dope too. So yeah, a lot of trading and like community closets that are going on. I see a lot of those in the community, and that's especially popular for places that have like youth that can go to, especially in our community, because not everybody has affirming parents, or parents that, even some of them do have affirming parents that cannot afford to buy them a whole wardrobe, or can't afford to buy them the things that make them feel affirmed. So having places like that for people to be able to access, is also a way that you can, just help in the advocacy work.
So you mentioned and speaking engagements, because that is some people's thing. Like some people are the people that are willing to like get up in front of large crowds. Public speaking is not everybody's thing, and that's okay. But that's something that you and I both do a lot of. Um, I know that you spoke the other day. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Um, yeah. So, the other day, well, yesterday actually, I spoke at a vigil for Sam Norquist, the black trans man from Minnesota who was murdered in New York. And the community here wanted to have a visual for him, and I spoke at the visual. Um, there's a video on Blackout and circulating through other places if you want to hear what I actually said. But yeah, so I do a lot of public speaking, and which is crazy because I hate it.
Please, really?
I really don't like. I'm not like. I was never a person who was like, oh, I want to do public speaking for a living.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I'm 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 uh I'm nervous every time. No lie. But one of the things that my mentor taught me was that I have to be comfortable being in spaces and doing things that make me uncomfortable in order to grow as a person. So I've done a lot of public speaking in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. Um, and usually they're about, things that I'm passionate about or things that I'm knowledgeable about. Um, But yeah, that is really why I do it, because it is about, growth as a person. And, you know, if I'm passionate about something, or if I feel like, something should be said, I feel like, I have an obligation to say it, especially if it involves my community, Black men of trans experience. So there's not a lot of men in this area that are willing to speak. And that's for different reasons. Some of it might be for safety, some of it just might be nerves, and other people are stealth, so they don't really actively participate in the community or the community work. So, but in order to not be invisible as a community, there has to be people everywhere that speak, you know. So I kind of try and get into putting that into like some of my youth too. Like, okay, if you have an issue that you're passionate about, are you willing to talk about it? And some of them say yes, some of them say no. But you know, I just think that passing that information to the community, and being a person that is not, I don't think I'm afraid at all to say what I want to say. I think it's just sometimes like a nervousness of public speaking in general. um I'm Black every day, so there also comes a certain level of unsafeness in general, and then being Black and trans, there's also another level of that. But if I'm not the person who is willing to fight for my own rights and my own safety and the things that I think are important, like, I can't expect somebody else to do it for me.
Say that.
Like, I don't know. I think that's one of my pet peeves, and I get it. Because for some people it is about safety, and they're not able to show up because it'll put them in an unsafe position. But I know some other people who may not be in such an unsafe position, but they're also stealth, so they feel like it's not a community that they're actively a part of, so they don't feel like that they have to say anything because no one knows who they are, or you know who they were, or whatever the case may be. But to those people, I often pose a question of, when those people actively find out who you are, or you feel discriminated against, or something happens in a negative light, who is the community that you're going to go to seek help? So the same community that you feel like you don't want to be a part of or stand up for, we're also the same community that when something happens, you look to defend you.
That's a fact.
So, but, but I digress. And but yeah, you spoke this week too, and talked about at an LGBTQ panel, right?
I did an LGBT LGBTQ panel a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. That was for LGBTQ journalists in Florida at that, which was dope. And then outside of that one incident during it, it's dope that it existed, that it's dope that it happened. And then I was asked by an organization called Project No Labels in Florida to at a vigil for Sam and for the imam, the first openly gay imam that was murdered. And that was actually really beautiful because they had a Muslim woman come in full hijab and dress and did a prayer, which was really beautiful. I mostly talked about the fact that, you know, in the line of work that I am in and we are in, as journalists, Blackout Magazine really, like, they weren't telling our story before. Like, Black queer people, mainstream media wasn't telling our stories before, so they certainly aren't now. And so it's incredibly important for us to be telling our stories and to be telling each other's stories. And so because I'm originally from Rochester, I think we were the first national news outlet that was carrying Sam's story because it went public local first. And so we were able to up and we did the original story. And then comment says, I saw that it's a shame because more LGBTQ Muslims need that representation. Absolutely. Absolutely. They exist. We all exist out here. And that's why, like, that's a part of our story too. So like we're gonna be interviewing her so she can talk about that representation. And so it's so important to us as Black artists to be able to tell our stories, but not to I don't know, to do it in a way that doesn't feel like we're capitalizing on other people's stories. Like, share the original story about Sam, and then I really had no intention of writing anything about it again until there was a trial and a verdict. Because you knew that people were going to sensationalize it and it was gruesome, and so people are just going to run it for clickbait, and we don't ever want to be that. We want to tell our stories, but in a way responsible and respectful. And so we didn't run another story until I saw a blog that the principal at the school that he graduated high school from wrote this beautiful blog about his life, about Sam's life, and all the ways that he stepped up and all the ways that he advocated and all the ways that he was there to stand for people from the community in his short life, and that they will continue to do that work. And you can remember the hate and how he died, or you can remember the love and how he lived, and how each of them at the school plans on carrying on that work in his name and his honor. And so that felt like a very important story for me to write. So we did that to push out the blog, make sure more people were able to see that. So that's a lot about what I talked about. When I spoke, I read part of his blog and that part of the ending because it was just so true. And I also, you know, brought to light Tahiri Broom's story, because just a couple days before Sam's story came out, so much attention. Tahiri Broom died in Detroit and got very little media coverage. And then Ariana Johnson just was murdered. They just found her body a couple days ago and is getting very little attention. And so it's so important. Like, there are nuances and reasons, like T just talked about, that people step forward and want to be seen or not. And you can't help but respect that, you know, that's people's choices and there's reasons. But at this point, we are all at so much risk as a community. Like, it's the point that we all have to figure out what way we're going to step forward, because people are dying every day. And Sam's story got a ton of attention, but it's not the only one, and it won't be the last. And so we got to start making noise. Like, we have to start fighting and paying attention and making noise. And just like you said, like, your thing is that you get frustrated because a lot of people, like, you know, feel that they don't necessarily need to fight for the community because for whatever reason. I get really frustrated with the folks that are kind of like, oh, I don't do politics. or like I don't pay attention to those things. I don't watch the news. I struggle with that because you gonna talk about some effort and find out, like, every single right that we have as Black folks, as queer folks, as trans folks is on the chopping block right now. As women, even just as women, is on the chopping block right now. And so I struggle with people even still at this point in history that are like, oh yeah, like I'm not interested. Like I don't do that. Like I saw my baby Corey put up a stat because there was a ball last night in the city where I'm from, and there was a protest, a march today in where I was from for just in general for LGBTQ rights. And he was like, y'all better show up for that protest like you showed up for that ball. And that's real. Like they're going to take away everything they possibly can for us that we're not willing to fight for. And even probably some of the things that we are willing to fight for. So like we are officially as a community running out of excuses for not showing up.
What y'all gonna say next? I'm not voting till balls is on the line, and we can't throw no more balls no more. Then y'all gonna come to a protest. Then y'all gonna get out and vote when y'all can't cat and dip no more. Like, is that what it's gonna take? Cause I mean, if that was the case, y'all should have did that when the young boy got murdered in New York City, Shay, just for voguing.
Right. And that
So I mean, it's like violence everywhere. It's rights being taken away everywhere. So you can't just be like, politics is not for me. Well, politics ain't for me either. I never grew up and said, hey, I want to be a politician. But like, I know I want rights. I know I want liberty and equality and all the things that I'm supposed to have as a human being that lives, whose forefathers built this country on the backs of slaves and all of that. I know that I have the rights that everybody else in this country should have, and I'm going to fight to make sure I would say keep, but there's so many things that, let's just say, I'm fighting for what I already had and so much more. That's pretty much the only way I could say it.
Yeah, that's a fact. I don't know. Like, I don't feel, Javon just said they showed out for him, but they don't show out for trans people like that. I don't know if Javon is talking about O'Shea Sibley or is talking about Sam Norquist, but I think that this is now the time that we just need to focus on showing up here. What happened to O'Shea was horrible and disgusting. And what happened to Sam was horrible and disgusting. But see, the thing about it is they only show up when it's a tragedy. That's not true because it's all tragedies. And even some of the tragedies don't get attention. All I know is that at this point, we are all going to start dying at record numbers because the climate of hate, that is what happens when that rhetoric, like, it's not just stuff that people say, like, that's what costs all of us. And when I say all of us, I mean Black and trans and LGBTQ in general, queer. That's what costs us our lives. And we all need to be all mad. Like at this point, we all need to be all mad for every trans woman, for every trans man, for every queer person, for every immigrant, all of the things. We need to show up. Javon said gay people show up more for them. They don't show up for.
I mean, you know, I hear you. And what I'm going to say is we need to show up for us because a lot of times I'm not really worried. Yes, everybody should show up for everybody, but there's so many like trans individuals that we don't show up for each other, but we also there's also a lot of people who don't show up for us as well. But I think we need to focus on us showing up for us before we start focusing up on who else doesn't show up for us. Like, there's a lot of people in the community, they only show up when they're getting paid for something. So, I mean, I feel like, there's accountability that has to be taken inside our community as a trans community. And I feel like there's an accountability that needs to be taken as the LGBTQ community as a whole. And I think everybody needs to be accountable to show up for everybody. And I don't think we're gonna get anywhere by being like this group don't show up for this group don't show up for this group. I think, in my activism, I'm going to be accountable for the spaces that I show up to, and I'm going to try and bring people along with me to show up as well. And I can't say that they're going to come, but what I can say is that I will try, and that's how I can hold myself accountable and the people that I surround myself with accountable first before I start, worrying about like other people that I can't necessarily hold accountable because I don't know them. So I think it has to start with like self and your pods. How do you hold your pods accountable? Like, that's another thing that we talked about with my kids. Like, the different pods. Who's in your pod? Like, what do they do for you? How can they, support you? And I think like we need to actively be thinking about like who is in our pods. What do they show up for us for? How can they actively be, if not in the community, allies to the community? And are they willing? And if not, why are they in my pod?
Love for you to make a video about that. I think that's such important messaging. Like I said, I think the things that are happening in the world right now are really making all of us look at a lot of things a lot differently. I think that there's not much, if you're paying attention, I don't think you have a choice but to start like re-examining your thoughts and your beliefs and your actions and the things that you do and how you do it and who's around you and who really supports you and what your advocates, like who you support. Like, while you're complaining about who somebody else doesn't support, like who are you supporting? And like I can even say, like, to hold myself accountable, I had put up a stat the other morning because I was sick of it. Like I had turned on social media and everybody, it was like I saw like 10 stats in a row of people being like, well, this person can do this for this people, but they can't do this for this people, or these people show up when this happens and they don't show up when this happens. And I was so annoyed that I put up a stat and I was like, I wish we could stop doing that. Like, I want somebody, if you have an issue that you feel like is not making it to the stage or is not being heard, like, get louder, opposed to complaining about who else is being heard, like this oppression Olympics. I immediately, within an hour, pulled that stat back because I was running stories about Tahiri Broome and Sam Norquist at the same time, and Tahiri's story got seen by less, like probably an eighth less people. And I watched Sam's GoFundMe hitting to $100,000, and Tahiri's couldn't even get to the 3,000 that they were asking for. And her story actually came out first. And I'm never a person that compares things like that. Like, that's just not really how my brain works. Like I said, I'm more of a person that's like, oh, well, if you're not getting attention, like, get louder, figure out how we can organize more. Like, how can we bring more, opposed to criticizing somebody else who's getting attention, like, how can we get more attention to this other subject? And I had to check myself because there really are distinctions there. Like, these two people died, and mind you, Sam's story was hideous and repulsive and disgusting. But Tahiri Broome also got shot in the head, got left in a parking lot to die, which is pretty damn disgusting and horrific also. So, like, while we're comparing who has it worse and who's more visible and who gets to be invited on what panel and we need to be showing up for everybody, because there are real distinctions here and we're all in trouble. I don't share many issues with gay men. We don't often have parallel interests in things. And I have actually faced more racism, misogyny, whatever from gay white men than any other group of people on the planet. But right now, whether they realize it or not yet, we are all under attack. And we have to start showing up for groups that we are not a part of. I probably do more trans advocacy than I do queer advocacy because I understand how great the need is. So I don't give shit that I'm not trans. What difference does that make? If you advocate for Black trans women, that means everybody else gets rights because Black trans women are typically the ones that have the fewest. And so if you advocate for everything Black trans women need, that usually covers damn near every other marginalized group that there is, because that's Black folks, that's other trans folks, that queer folks, that's women, that's Black women, like it's all of the things. And so I want so badly for us to not, and I get where the pain comes from of not being feeling and being acknowledged and not feeling and being seen. But I want so badly for us as a community to get past that and just realize this is all of our fight. And like you just said, like you can't hold anybody accountable but the people that are in your circle. So like, how are you holding them accountable, and how are you as a unit showing up to support in every way we possibly can?
Yeah, that's a word. What else can we for advocacy and things, ways that people can advocate. Um
Well,
I mean,
we talked about economics, you and I, like this target. I mean, we've seen it throughout time. The only thing that has ever really changed things isn't because somebody decided that all of a sudden people deserved better.
smooth.
It's that people, yeah, it's that people started hitting people's pockets. Like the boycott, the bus boycott, the civil rights, the kick, the biggest like win in the civil rights movement wasn't because somebody all of a sudden decided, oh, it's wrong to force Black people to the back of the bus. We should do something different because they deserve better. Like, that's not what happened. So many, I think it was 18 months, for 18 months. And this was prior to people really having access to cars the way they did now. So a lot of people relied on public transportation for 18 months through snow, through heat, walking 6 miles to work to pick up their kids and drop them off and pick them up and all the things. Like, they did that for 18 months until it affected the economy so badly from not having that money from people riding that public transportation that they had no choice. They were going to go out of business. And you see it again with Target. Target at this point has lost millions of dollars. They're
Womp womp womp.
womp womp. They're now being sued by their board members, their voting board, whoever they are, because they weren't informed that this reversal of DEI could lead to boycotts, which I'm not sure why anyone would tell you that, but nevertheless, that's what's happening. And so I'm not sure what Target's going to do, because even if you start them back at this point, I would be remiss about continuing to shop there. So I'm not sure what they're going to do, but like, that needs to be a cautionary tale to every organization and business that decides to make those type of moves. But there is a movement for that to continue. And that's another one of those things. I saw a video that I thought was so dope the other day, and it was somebody talking about, like, this isn't just boycotting a thing. It's realizing your collective buying power as a Black community, as a queer community, whatever, and understanding how much power lives in it, and being more conscious of like how we do it, like how we are spending our money, what we are spending our money on, where we are spending money, where we're spending money that isn't, like, if people don't want us there, like, why are we giving these people our money if they don't respect us enough? Because like, DEI isn't just about having products on shelves, which people don't understand. It's about like hiring and firing practices. It's about promotions. It's about equity and pay. And as much as white women benefit more from DEI than any other group of people, that doesn't mean that it doesn't also affect us. Because I'm sure any of us that are in the workplace, if you work with a white woman, they are much more likely to get a raise than you are. And so DEI matters for all of us. And we have the power with the way we spend our money and where, and that might come with some discomfort in some ways or it being less convenient, but it changes things. Like, people say boycotts and protests don't change anything. It's about the only thing that ever has changed anything in this country.
Right.
So we actually have the map. Somebody mentioned in the comments that on the 28th there's an economic blackout, but it actually goes deeper than that. So on the 28th, they're asking people to not spend money anywhere. So once the 28th, next Friday, this coming Friday, Friday, spend no money, no dollars. If you got to go grocery shopping, do it on the 20th, do it on Thursday. Spend $0 on the 28th. Then the following week, March 7th through the 14th, no Amazon. The March 21st, 28th. So then they take a week off in between. So the March 21st through the 28th, no Nestle. I wanted to look up and see exactly what products are Nestle products, because you know these big conglomerate companies own a million other things that you don't even realize they do. So what are
Nestle brands are, let me see, they got a lot of stuff. They got breakfast cereal, bottled water. So oh wow, everything from DiGiorno pizzas to Purina pet food.
Really? Read them off. You got more?
Let me see. Nestle is a huge. So let's see. For baking, dang, they got sections
Wow.
of stuff. So they got Nestle Toll House, Libby's Pumpkin, Carnation, La Leche, and Abuelita. So they got the Spanish brands too. Okay. Beverages. Beverages is Nesquik. I ain't never heard of Milo, but Milo is there. Abuelito again. That looked like a chocolate syrup or a tea syrup or something. What else? Nido. That's a baby formula. Ovaltine. Dang, I ain't heard about Ovaltine since a Christmas story. I don't know who drinking Ovaltine in these days. And then of course the Nestle powder hot chocolate. So they got chilled stuff. They got Stouffer's. Can't eat no Stouffer's. No DiGiorno pizza. No lean cuisines. So if y'all on a diet, y'all better go to the Black Farmer and go get some fruits and vegetables over there.
Hey, well, you just said the Black Farmer. I was reading an article about some country. I don't know what it was, but they started a program where the community was able to start directly buying from Black farmers to support Black farmers in the area that were not getting allowed in supermarkets and whatever. Like, we need to do that too. That needs to be a thing. Black Farmer on the line. That's something we need to figure out.
Yes. Whatever Sweet Earth Foods is, Hot Pockets.
Hot
Yeah,
Pockets.
yep, the kids ain't getting no Hot Pockets if they ain't already got them. CPK Frozen is a pizza, Jack's Pizza, Tombstone Pizza. So that's all of the pizzas, chilled and frozen. I'm telling you, Nestle got a lot of stuff. Now we on to the coffees they got.
Oh,
They got Starbucks at home coffee is made by Nestle. Nespresso, I think that's a cappuccino.
I think
Nescafe, yeah, the blue bottle coffee, Coffee Mate in general. And I'm mad because I actually just started using this Coffee Mate because they got coconut milk, almond milk, Coffee Mate. But bye bye to that. What else we got? Food service. Oh, so don't go to no hotels because the Holiday Inn hotels use Nestle.
Oh.
So I hope you're not not going to no hotels that week. Gerber.
Wow.
Gerber products. Gerber's made by Nestle. Dang, they got pet care. Sheesh. Purina. Anything Purina. They're Nestle. Dang. What does health science mean? I'm almost scared. What else? What is this? Is this desserts?
Maybe Black
Oh,
Out should,
they got international products too.
maybe
You can't even get no Maggie. Dang.
maybe Black Out will put up a list of all the products because I don't think people always realize like how many companies one company owns, like brands one company owns. So maybe we should put up a list.
I mean, if you just take a picture of this Pellegrino water, Lean Cuisine, it's like psh, their brands are go deep. So I mean, I feel like they do all the premium waters, the Pellegrino waters, the
That shit,
essential
that shit,
waters. You know the ones that's in Seven
yeah.
Eleven.
All that shit come out of somebody's tap water. That's why they just put it in different bottles.
Probably because I'm gonna be honest, when I used to work at a cheese factory. Listen, I told you I used to have all different types of jobs. So I used to work at this cheese
So
warehouse. And it's probably why I don't eat that much cheese now. But do you realize that all of the grated cheese, doesn't matter what brand you buy, it's all the same cheese.
the same as
They, huh?
and frozen. But I didn't realize it until when they started doing all those recalls of frozen vegetables,
Mm.
like 7, 8 years ago. It was mad frozen vegetables got recalled, but you would see what brand it was, and it would be like 10 different brands because they were all made in the same factory and it was the same shit. They just were different factories and stuff.
Yeah, so all that shredded cheese, block cheese, all that cheese is the same cheese. And I'm gonna tell you, out of all the cheese that I ever had to handle, grated cheese is probably the worst cheese for you
That's why
ever.
it don't
You
even.
look, yeah, you look better grating your own cheese than getting grated. Not just the grated cheese, the anything that's like cut up, don't buy it. I'm gonna tell you how that. Like the things I've seen.
Oh, I don't want it.
You don't want that type of cheese. Just buy sliced cheese, square cut. You could even buy the cubes, but the grated,
Got it.
don't do it.
Okay, that's the April 7th through the 14th is Walmart. April 18th is economic blackout, so that must be everybody.
Yeah,
Like again,
don't buy nothing again.
got. And then the 21st to the 28th is General Mills. So okay, so I pulled up General Mills. General Mills is a lot easier than your Nestle list. Annie's like the pretzels.
Mm.
Autumn's Gold, Betty Crocker, Bisquick, Blue Buffalo. So there go dog food again. Bugles, Casadian Farm. I have no idea what that is. Cheerios, Chex Mix,
Mm.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cocoa Puffs, Cookie Crisp, Dunkaroos, Epic, Fiber One, Gold Medal, Golden Grams, Green Giant Vegetables, Hot Sauce, Kicks, Larabar, Latina Fresh, Lucky Charms, Monster Cereals, Nature's Valley, so granola bars,
Mm-hmm.
Oleo, Wheat, which is yogurt, Pillsbury Atta, Progresso,
Mm-hmm.
Raisin Nut Brand, Reese's Puffs, Total, Totino's Pizza. Like just give up pizza for the next 2 months apparently. Tricks, Wheaties, Yoplait. So like no shade,
Wait,
even that
did you say Betty Crocker?
I did.
Okay,
I did.
that's what I was sad
No
about because you know I like
make
cakes.
sense during the next 2 months. But like no shade, like even that is important to recognize. Like just the fact that all these company brands are owned by these same major giant conglomerates that we're making rich. Like I want to tell you to look up black owned companies that make all these same products and buy those, but that takes work and effort that I know everybody's not going to put in. But understand that all we're doing is making like the same handful of people rich when we don't have to be.
Right. So I think yeah, we need to put together a list for the people to make it a little easier for them. And we got a General Mills here in Buffalo,
Do you really?
so we do. I smell Cheerios when I ride downtown all the time. Whole side of town smell like Cheerios.
Rochester has beer and Rochester has beer and like sodas.
Oh yeah, we got beer too. It's a lot of breweries here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of breweries, a lot of bars, and a lot of things that smell like Cheerios.
Hilarious. All right, so that's another way to be active, activism. Another way is contacting your local politicians. Just about look up who represents you. There's been all kinds of gerrymandering and redistricting so that your vote counts less. If you are concerned about, like, if you're one of those people that's like, I don't vote because it doesn't matter. A lot of the reason it doesn't matter to the amount that you think it should is because of how they cut the line, so where votes go. Um, but those people,
Wait, if y'all ever want to see a crazy way that lines are cut and a city is split up, just check out the way that Buffalo is structured and how it's set up and how there is a pocket inside of another city line. So it's like a whole line of one neighborhood, and then they throw a whole nother neighborhood inside of it and call it like a different district.
yeah,
It's
and all that's purposeful. All of it's purposeful. But the fact of the matter is, those people work for us, whether you voted for them or not. And every single time you call and leave a voicemail or call and talk to a secretary at like a representative's office, that has to be recorded. Like that literally has to be recorded to say that they got to complain about this, they got to whatever. And like that matters. You can Google your politicians. You can, and all like the vote 411 sites that you had to figure out if you're registered to vote and where you vote and whatever. They'll tell you who all your representatives are. Start once a day, send them an email talking about how you don't like what's happening. Start calling them people's phones. Like, it doesn't sound like it matters, but their job is literally to be a politician and they want to get reelected. And so if they feel like, like Trump can say whatever he wants from Washington, but if they know the people, like, I guarantee you, these Republicans are running scared right now because they're getting ate up in their local districts with all these people that are losing their jobs. Like, Trump doesn't necessarily have to deal with them people, but they do. All these people losing their jobs, all these people losing their scholarships, all these people losing their rights, all these people that are afraid because the things that they thought weren't going to happen when these people got elected are happening. And like, I've never been a Republican, but like, Republican used to mean something a little bit different. Like, Republican used to just mean like super conservative and usually old white men and whatever. There was a system of thought like that has been completely thrown out the window with this whole MAGA thing, where it's just like, I don't know, wild abandon. And so we have to stand on the necks of these politicians to make sure that if there's advocacy days, check with organizations by you to see who has advocacy days. Usually they will pay for you to get a hotel room and transportation to come to your state capital and meet with politicians, stand out there with flags, have meetings with different representatives and lobbyist groups and whatever. Like, there are ways that you can get involved, even if you're not looped in to like all the organizations and doing all the things, and you're not like the 7 people from your community that people always see on TV. Like, that doesn't mean that you can't be effective and that you can't. All the equality, whatever. Every state has an equality something. Equality Florida, equality New York, equality whatever. Look on their website, look on their social media pages, see what they got going on, how you can show up, how you can make calls. If they're looking for volunteers, like, get involved, do something. I don't care what you do, but do something.
And if you live in New York, we not only have an equality New York, but we also have a gender equality New York. So, I mean, there are places that you can definitely reach out to, and if you don't know how to reach out to them, or, for some reason your Google doesn't work, you can hit me up. I can send you the link to these places, you know. So, I mean, there are different ways that you can get involved. And I mean, if you're not a person who can lobby, you know, for and there, I mean, because there are many reasons, you know, some people don't have the capability or ability. You I know everyone or most 99% of people are on the internet. So, if you're one of those people that are on the internet all the time, you can share things like our stats from Blackout Magazine or some of the stories that we write that share good information, not the stories that carry misinformation. So, you know, sharing reliable, resourceful, informational things that is accurate is also a way that you can practice in advocacy work. And I tell the kids that as well because I'm like, I know all of y'all is not gonna be able to go out the house. Some of y'all got curfews at 6 o'clock, which is fine. But I know you'll be on the internet
All life.
after 6 o'clock all day long. So while you on there chatting with your friends on whatever group you in, or just scrolling, minding other people's business, you know, share a stat. Share a stat from Blackout. Share a stat from one of the equality groups that are in your city, you know, or one of the national websites, you know, share a stat from one of them. There are a lot of great national places that are out there that are doing the work. They are involved in like policy work and justice, all kinds of stuff, specifically LGBTQ, specifically black and brown people, you know, specifically DEI. So there's so many things depending on what you're passionate about or maybe what affects you directly, because we know people like to share things that affect them directly. But while you're sharing the things that affect you directly, make sure you think about one other person and share something that doesn't affect you directly, you know.
And I'm so glad you said that because I was definitely about to end and forget. Media. Media has never told our stories. Like, we know that. And if they did, they had these negative spins that didn't reflect who we were as a people. However, typically, back in the old days, they did at least tell the accurate, like they told the real news. The things that you heard were actually news. It might not be the things affecting you and your community or be relevant to your life, but the things they said were truth. And that is just not something that you can guarantee anymore. Like, you have to understand, just like these companies that own these 9,000 brands, like these whoop-de-doo rich billionaires own the media as well. And so you have to be really careful about the information you're getting and its accuracy. And at this point, mind you, it's mine, so I get it. And I'm a little partial, but I don't think there's an excuse for anybody who's Black, brown, and queer in our community to not have a subscription to Blackout Magazine. And I don't say it because it's mine. I say it because, like, if you're not, like EL always says, if you're not here, what are you doing? Because for $30 a year, you have that access in your email, on a website, in your phone every single day. And you know that our news is the things that are going to be affecting you. And you probably spent more than $30 at lunch today. But like, this is something that can last you a year. Like, you need to be following Translash Media. You need to be following Blackout. Like, you need to be following the outlets that are independent media that are telling you the stories that you want to hear. You need to be following like Hope Giselle and Raquel Willis and people that are journalists, that are activist journalists, who you know are telling you information that you need to hear that's accurate and are able to break down for you, which is why I love how we do it. Like, we're able to break down for you what you really need to understand, because it's such, like, part of the tactic, it's an old war tactic, I guess, to send so much bad information so fast, so often, that you just give up, basically. Like, your brain is just like, I can't take anymore. Like, I'm just withdrawing because I can't process this. So we try to tell only the stories that are going to directly affect our community. Not that those other stories don't also, or those other outlets don't also have news that you need to hear, because all the things happening in the world are the things that you need to hear. However, if you don't have the capacity to take in all of that, at least follow an outlet that you know is going to talk about the things that are going to matter to you and that you need to understand for your own rights and your own community, and for you to understand what's going on and know what to do and know what's coming. Like, the last thing you want to do, like, it never ceases to amaze me. And for whatever reason, well, I know what reason, but I know a lot more Black trans men than I know Black trans women. Like, it's just my friend has always included a lot of Black trans men. And it never ceases to amaze me every single day I turn on social media and there is somebody who goes to the pharmacy and can't get their meds and they are shocked. There's somebody who sends in their passport document and they come back wrong and is shocked. There's somebody who also had access to something and all of a sudden doesn't, and they're angry, they're shocked, they're hurt, and they didn't know this was coming. But like, we don't have the luxury anymore to not be paying attention. Ooh. And we lost C. We don't have the luxury anymore to not be paying attention. Like, we have to know what's coming. We got to stay informed. And I understand that there's so much coming at you, but that's why we're here. So come to Blackout. Let us break it down for you. If you don't want to read a long article, cool. Watch one of the videos that Winston I have been putting up. I think Ronnie's done a couple. Just get the information however you need to get it. The reason why we keep it short, the reason why we make it videos and writing is because everybody learns in different ways, and that's cool. But don't just be comfortable with saying, oh, I don't get it. I don't like reading. I don't watch stuff. I don't watch news. Like, you gotta know what's going on to keep yourself safe. You gotta know what's going on.
Got to. And so, with that being said, make sure you spend that $30 to get a subscription to Blackout magazine. You know, I mean, you can get a subscription every year for the next 4 years, and you still only spending less than you gonna spend on a pair of J's or Tim's. I'm from.
Depending on what J's they are, you can probably get 10 years worth of subscriptions for
I'm just saying, but you have to know where your news is coming from, and you have to know what's going on around you in order to be vigilant to the things that are happening. And not only that, like, it's not going to stop people from like traveling, right? People are going to, as soon as the summertime hit, people going to be outside, right? Y'all going to be outside, y'all going to want to travel, y'all going to want to be in these different spaces and places, but y'all need to know which spaces and places are safest.
right.
And so in order to do that, you have to be paying attention to the news that is going on in those spaces and places. And Blackout is probably one of the only spaces that is going to cover almost all of those spaces and places because it's a national LGBTQ magazine. So it's not like we only have things that is happening like in New York or only in specific states. We try to cover whatever is happening everywhere, in order to keep the people informed, and also, information for a lot of people is safety. So, you have to be hyper vigilant for yourself. And also, here's that word again, the word that a lot of people don't like: accountability for yourself, by making sure you spend your money wisely, investing in your own self, investing in your community, and investing in your own safety. And you can do all of that for $30 a year. Small portion of advocacy as well.
It is. It is. All right. So we don't preach to you. Hopefully we informed you. We gave you some ideas. I hope that if you're watching this on the rewind, that you drop in the comments any of the like advocacy days, protests, marches, ways that people can get informed that they may not know about. If you have something coming up, please drop the link so people who rewatch can read through the comments and find other ways to get involved. If you have an advocacy organization that is doing things, feel free to contact Blackout. We could talk about what you're doing on a national scale to hopefully get you some more support. Free to drop in the comments so that people get information, because that's what we got to do now. Like that's the work. Like we got to figure out ways to get the word out, connect with each other, pay attention, read, understand, learn, spread the word. Like that's what life is now. So hopefully Blackout can help you in that process. So if you have something coming up, make sure you drop it so that we can help you get people involved.
And also, March is coming up, so there's a few days in March that, we should all be looking forward to. First off, March is Bisexual Health Awareness Month. So, definitely, I feel like sometimes the bi community is invisible to a lot of other folks. So I'm glad they do have their own health awareness month, and that's March. March 1st is Zero Discrimination Day. And of course, March 31st is Trans Day of Visibility. So make sure you are celebrating yourself if you trans and being visible, if it's safe for you to be visible. And if you know a trans person, send them some money. Yeah, that's my suggestion for Trans Day of Visibility. So if you happen to know me,
Send him some money.
yeah, send me some money. I can send you my cash app.
And
I'll take it over.
don't forget March 7th, Blackout is having a community conversation with 4 of our columnists called The Cost of Visibility, which is going to be a really amazing conversation. It's going to be on Facebook, Instagram at the same time, and then right after it'll be on YouTube. So you can watch if you're boycotting Meta, like so many of us are at this point, you can also catch it on YouTube afterwards, and probably some clips on TikTok as well.
Shay
And
said,
his birthday, so happy
hey,
birthday!
send him some money. Yo, March 1st is a lot of people's birthday. That's also my sister and my nephew's birthday. It's March 1st. So gonna be a good. Oh, you know what I forgot to tell you, Tam?
Huh.
So when I was checking out, like one of the things I was saying is we need to start as a community of Black and Brown people start celebrating our own successes and holidays,
Yeah.
right? So March, there's a couple of things that are coming up, and whether you choose to celebrate them or not, I thought they'd be some really cool things to mention. Um, so like March 5th is Crispus Attucks Day. So, and March 10th is actually Harriet Tubman Day. And I didn't even know that until I seen it online, which I thought was pretty dope, that March 10th. So, one day that I thought that would be very interesting to you, Tam, was March 16th is the first publication of the first Black newspaper in America called the Freedom Journal in 1827.
Is that Frederick Douglass's paper from Rochester? Who did it?
You know what? I have to re-look it up because it didn't tell me exactly who did it,
That
but I
was
just.
my daddy's birthday.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been my dad.
That's cool. And March 21st, the International Day for Elimination of Racial Discrimination, which I feel like we should all celebrate this year,
Okay.
right? So I mean,
Out there on St. Patrick's Day dressed in green with a beer in their hand if they're not showing up at somebody's march.
right.
Damn it.
Definitely, if you don't celebrate all of these special days or events, at least take the time to like look them up, see what they about. Um,
And if you have
you
kids,
know,
teach your kids about them.
that is true because when I was a kid, we celebrated everything. I mean, like my mom used to every year. I knew when Martin Luther King Day was for sure because we got cake and and we would watch.
Holidays.
Listen, we will watch like Black History Month. We will watch something African American every year. The first time I seen Roots, I was probably like 10. So like, we celebrated a lot of different holidays that were Black oriented in my house as a kid growing up. I feel like we celebrated everything. So
I'm ready to celebrate in all the holidays. I want to celebrate Tina Turner's birthday. I want to celebrate, like, I'm rooting for everybody Black. Like, let's celebrate all the things. all the things.
celebrate all the things because
Because one of the
you
big
know
signs of resistance is joy. It's
right,
the scariest
right.
out right now. You gotta hold on to joy. You gotta hold on to the things you love and the things that bring you joy. Because if not, what are we fighting for?
Imagine if everybody, every black or brown person in America took off March 10th for Harriet Tubman Day. What would that really say to employers?
Fix.
You know, I get what extended holiday once a year, and I don't. This year I usually pick my birthday because it's the day after Juneteenth, so I get like 2 days in a row to celebrate, blackness and myself. So but
Myself.
this year, I think I'm just gonna pick another holiday that I usually don't celebrate. That's a black holiday, and like celebrate that and take that day off. And then I'm gonna make sure I write it in capital letters why I'm taking the day off when they ask.
That's a
Harriet Tubman Day, Tina Turner's birthday, um, whatever. The day that King Griffey Jr. got inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
well.
What?
Even with Pride, like Pride is going to be incredibly important this year because it centers queerness, but prides typically do not center blackness as well. So right dead smack in the middle of Pride is Juneteenth, and so making sure, especially with queer communities, that we're celebrating Juneteenth is incredibly important. I started one in St. Petersburg, Florida. This year, I'm helping to plan one in Orlando, Florida. Like the idea of being able to celebrate an intersectional holiday that is both celebrating blackness and queerness at the same time, I think is incredibly important. And those are the kind of things that like we need to see grow because we do get lost. The black community fight for queerness, black folks get lost in. And so finding ways to carve out days that represent all of our intersectionality, where we are both black and we are queer or we are trans or whatever, that's incredibly important because we are not a monolith and we shouldn't have to,
Pick.
yeah, we shouldn't have to pick. We shouldn't have to pick.
Right. I can celebrate Trans Day of Visibility, but I can also celebrate Crispus Attucks Day or Harriet Tubman Day. I can celebrate Pride, my birthday, and Juneteenth all in the same month.
Well, Shay, Shay said in Albany, Juneteenth has yet to include LGBTQ people. Well, it sounds like you got a calling then. Sounds like you need to go call some folks and create a queer Juneteenth holiday.
Yeah,
If you can't find it, build it, baby.
right, right. Build it and they will come. And Shay usually does a queer picnic, I believe, every year in July that he throws in
Well,
Albany.
yeah, this year, Shay.
Yeah, so he does, he does a lot of stuff to bring like highlight the black community in Albany, and we thank him for that for sure.
Right. One
Look,
thing
say less, he already on it.
to
But yeah, so like we always say, you could have been anywhere, but you're here with us, and we appreciate it. July 12th is, yes, his soiree, which I have yet to make it to because it is usually always the same weekend as that I throw my my queer family day for the kids at the park. So I throw a Pride in the park for families and kids, and I might have to switch up the date so I can make it to this soiree this year because I seen the pictures from last year and I was mad I didn't make it.
I'm on time.
Right, right. We might have to black out soiree up in there.
Okay. All right, y'all. Like T said, we are so always so grateful you spent so much time with us. We had a really big live audience tonight, which is always fun because this show is always better when y'all are commenting with us and asking questions and saying things. It just makes it better every time when somebody shows up. So we get a lot of views on the replay, but we had so much participation today, and that is super dope. So thank you for that.
Yes, yes. So we will see y'all all next month. Um, and until then, stay happy as much as you can, stay as healthy as you can. Make sure you practice self-care and get out there and fight and advocate however you can. Bye, y'all.